All right. Got a lot of people on today. This is exciting.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about kind of some college prep. I feel like we've done this one. Remind
We've
me.
done it, but not with both age groups.
Okay,
So,
great. Perfect. Okay. So if you've been through this before, you might learn some new stuff. Feel free to ask questions. I'm going to go through, I'm Caitlin, by the way. I work at UBT. If you have not been on one of my little webinars before, but I'm going to go through like financial aid, what it means, loans for college, just kind of that prep. So it's a lot of vocabulary words and what they mean. But it's really good information as you're thinking about going to college or even a trade school or SEC, something like that. All this stuff is really good to know. And then next week, the hope is to have somebody from Nelnet come and get on the webinar and talk, and your parents or your guardians are invited to be a part of that too, and we'll send out information. So if you do have questions along the way between now and then, or your parents do as you're kind of planning for college, this would be a really good time to be on. Somebody wants the captions on. I have no idea how to turn captions on. Let me see.
captions.
Like closed captioning.
Oh,
I didn't know that was an option.
I don't know if that's an option. Who needs to have captions on?
It was on the chat.
I didn't get the chat. I think it's just directly to you.
Okay, it was Noah, Paul,
Noah. Noah, you have it. Can you not hear?
Is it my volume? Can you hear me okay, Maura?
I can. Yeah, Noah, do you want to take yourself off mute and explain your need for?
Says it cannot hear very well. It's very patchy. It might be your internet connection.
Yeah. Can everyone else hear us? You guys want to give us a thumbs up if you can hear us?
In the chat there?
Yeah.
We can hear you.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Noah, you might want to log off and log back in. That might help.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So here we go. Feel free to ask questions. I'm not going to monitor the chat box while I'm talking, but as long as you keep it to everyone, Maura will see them and she can pass those off to me, or we could wait till the end, or when I do ask for questions, feel free to unmute yourself and we'll be good to go with that. So, all right, let's get started here. So again, this is a lot of information, but we could send this out again so that you have it so you can reference back, but it's really just defining a lot of terms that you're going to be hearing during the college prep days. So first one is scholarship. So a scholarship is a grant or payment made to support a student's education awarded based on academic and other achievement. So a scholarship is free money that is given to you for a specific reason. Okay, a grant is a little different, but the scholarships are based off of, if you're a really good chess player, if you have blue eyes or red hair, or you're left-handed, or you were adopted, or you've been in foster care, or there's so many reasons you could get a scholarship, tons, not just the reasons that people come to your school and talk about. If you Google, and I've got some links at the end of this, which are really handy to look at, you could Google just about anything that makes you unique, and there's probably a really great scholarship for it. So scholarships are free money that you never have to pay back. Scholarships typically go straight to your school. So even if you were to apply for scholarships now, they could send the money later to whatever school you decide to go to. Sometimes they'll give you cash scholarships. It just depends. There's a lot of scholarship opportunities. I would say figure out what makes you unique, Google it, or use my reference sites, and you will likely find some free money. There are billions of dollars every year in scholarships that go unclaimed. So if you work hard enough, especially in high school, to apply for scholarships, you could get tons of them. I know I heard of somebody that applied for 300 scholarships and got her college paid for. Some of them were $100, some of them were $10,000, but she applied and applied and applied, and she got all these random scholarships. So it's worth the look to find them. A grant is a sum of money given by the government or organization for a particular purpose. So a grant may be something where they're giving you free money. The government, which we'll talk about that in a second, will be giving you money based off of a for a purpose. And a lot of times it has to do with your social economic status. So where you or your guardian or parent are financially. So that's one way the government gives you money for college is they look at your household income and they say, based off that, you're eligible for this much for college. So you could get a lot of free money, and all colleges force you to fill out the FAFSA, which we'll get to that, which is the government site to give you money, the grant, basically to look up grants for you. Organizations can give you grants too. Grants do not have to be paid back either, a lot like scholarships, but they just are, they're a little bit different where the money varies and it's for a particular purpose. Pell Grants are federal grants awarded to students for post-secondary education, so colleges, universities, and career schools. So this has to do with the FAFSA. Funds do not have to be repaid and awarded based off your financial needs. So the less money your household makes, the more money you can get in a grant. There's also another variable. If you're single versus married, you'll be eligible for different amounts. When I was in college, I got married my second or third year of college, and I got grant money when the first couple of years, but when I got married, that became my household income, and we made far less than my parents did. And so I got way more money with the Pell Grants because I was suddenly married and broke. So that paid off for me to get married in college. And I'm not suggesting everybody go out and do that, but that's just an example of when you can get a little more grant money based off your circumstances.
I have a better way to do it rather than getting married. No
Yeah.
offense, Kristen, but my son works and goes to school. And this year, instead of claiming him, my husband and I, claiming him on our taxes, he's claiming himself on his taxes. Yep. Therefore, he is now independent on his taxes.
Yes.
And he is then eligible for a lot more money.
That's perfect. That's a really great way to do it. So if you're working and you're filing taxes, if your parents or guardians do not claim you as a dependent, meaning they're not going to say, yes, I'm footing the bill for this person, and you file your own taxes as an independent, then yes, it definitely lowers your household income because you are your own household at that point. So the government's not looking at everybody in your family, they're just looking at you. So that's another really, really great example to get a little bit more on the Pell Grant. Smart move for him to do that.
Yeah.
All right, so moving into loans. So there's several loans. You're going to hear most of them today of what type, and it's going to get confusing. I get it. So this is a great presentation to have just saved on your computer so that you can look back or Google some of these things. But I'm going to try to tell you the best I can who is eligible for them and the perk of them, like why a loan would be a good one versus another one. It's all circumstantial though. It's all based on your circumstances. There's no right or wrong answer. There are some perks to some of them. Federal loans being the best. Usually the best type of loan to take if you're going to take out student loans. So federal loans are loans given by the federal government for college. Okay, there's several types of loans though, and we will get into that because apparently it got a little wonky there. So federal loans are usually the best. We'll go through a couple types. They usually have lower interest rates, and the government has a lot more flexibility or uses their flexibility with repayment plans. So when you go to pay them back, there's a little more flexibility where you might not have to pay as much as you would if you had a private loan. And we'll talk about those too. There's another way to earn money during college that can help pay for college, and that's a work-study program. A lot of universities and colleges have work-study programs. So what this means is you're going to work for the school, your college or your university, doing something within your department that maybe you're going to school for, and they're going to pay you, but instead of paying you everything in a paycheck, they're going to put some of it towards your schooling. So it's a great way to work part-time usually for the school to get some experience in your field, but also earn money. Sometimes they do pay you just a regular paycheck, but they give you a discount on your education. So there's different ways that you can earn money. There's only a certain amount of work-study positions at each school because they are funded. So they get money from the government to allow you to do a work-study. So there's only a certain amount. And folks that have that their household income is less are eligible first. So the less money you make, the more eligible you are for the work study program. So I would encourage anyone to apply for a work study. Doesn't matter what your income level is in your household, apply for the work study. It's a really great way to meet a lot of people, but also get experience in the department that you're going to school. So if I was earning a psychology degree, I would apply for a work study in the psychology department. So it's a really great way to also get to know your professors really well and even get some extra help when it comes to the education part. So the school will help pay for your education if you work for them. There is another type of work study. Let me see if I put it on here. Yep, career exchange. We'll get to that. Okay, private loans. So we talked about federal loans. I should have switched those. Federal loans are from the government. Private loans are from financial institutions such as banks or places like Nelnet or Navient. They're companies that run a financial institution to loan people money for education. So there might be a state loan program or a non-federal institution, but typically we're going to think of banks or big places like Nelnet or Navient, or I have a couple of them at the end of this presentation. Private loans tend to have higher interest rates. Their payback, how you pay them back, is a little bit different. Their eligibility for payoffs is different. We'll talk about that too. So private loans has a little bit more stipulations when it comes to loaning out money. But one of the private loans is called a Parent Plus loan. Sorry, that's not a private loan. Excuse me. There is a Parent Plus loan out there. And what that is that your parent is taking out school loans on your behalf. So their name is on it, but normally your name would have to be on the loan because you're the student. But a Parent Plus loan means that your parent or guardian can take out money on your behalf to pay for your college. Their name is on this loan though. So the expectation is they're going to pay it back. So it can get a little dicey. I've seen this happen where a parent takes out money for their student and says, you're going to pay it back. And the student does it. And it's on the parent to do so legally. So it can get a little dicey, and it's just something that would be between you and your parent. But there is a way that if you're not eligible for a loan, that your parent can help pay for college through a loan, through the Parent Plus loan. All right, FAFSA. This is something you're going to hear for the remainder of your time as a student, whether you're young or you go back to school later, you are going to hear FAFSA. Now, FAFSA stands for the Free Application for Student Aid. The application is at this one website, the studentaid.gov. It's from the federal government. This is where you're going to put in all of your household information. So if you're single, like Maura's son claims his own taxes, so he does this for himself, where I was a dependent, so I did this with my parents. Everything that we had to put in there was tax related. And then at the end, they tell me how much the government's going to give me as a grant. That's really what it is. It shows your eligibility for grant money, for scholarships, things like that. All schools require that you do this unless you pay out of pocket. But even then, don't give up grant money. That's free money. So you're going to want to fill out the FAFSA. Some schools require you to do this every semester. Some of them just do it once a year. It really depends on where you go. I believe most schools are semester though. So you're filling this out, it feels like all the time. But it's a good thing to do because you could get free money out of it. And by the time you're done with college, that could really, really add up. I have my master's, and when I was going through my master's program, they would not allow me to fill out FAFSA. There's rarely, if ever, grant money for higher education. But when you are getting your undergraduate degree, your bachelor's degree, or a trade school, you will have to fill this out. Okay. All right. So let's get into the loans. Does anybody have any questions so far? I don't think we have any in the chat box. So, okay. So here are some loans that you're going to hear about, especially if you just go on a regular loan site. We're going to talk, this is what's going to show up. So the Stafford or direct loan. Now what this type of loan is, it's still a loan you're going to have to repay. It has fixed rate federal loans. So a fixed rate means they're going to charge you a interest rate every year. So if you're going to take out $10,000, they're going to attach a certain amount in interest. Let's just say 5%, just for the kicks and giggles of this. So you need 10,000. This Stafford or direct loan is going to say, no matter what, you will only owe 5% a year on this loan. That's never going to change. That percentage will never change. There's another type of percent. This goes for any loan that you get. It's a variable. You're going to want to look out for these, especially with school loans. What variable means is that the lender can say to you, okay, you're taking out $10,000. Well, for the first year, we're going to charge you 5%, and then we'll see what happens. And so you get to the second year and they're like, you know what, we're going to bump this up to 8%. And then the next year they may say, we'll go back down to 7.5%. It just means every year it fluctuates. It really just doesn't matter. Fixed rate is a really good way to go for any loan, a car loan, a personal loan, anything, a mortgage, fixed rate, because it never changes. So as our interest rates go up, which they do as a whole a lot, your rate will never change. So the same rate I was given on my student loans 15 years ago is still the same rate I'm paying today. So that's really important to me. So that's a Stafford or a direct loan. These loans are available for your undergraduate, so for your bachelor's degree and for your master's degree. So it's really, or your PhD if you want to go that far, but they must be repaid when you are done with school. A subsidized loan they offer better terms. So possibly interest rates or the payback, how you pay it back to help students with financial needs. So subsidized means that while you're in school, the government actually pays your loan's interest rate. So during the 4, 5, 6 years, however long you're going to be in school, you're earning interest on your loan. So that $10,000 has that 5% interest rate. But during that time with a subsidized loan, the government's actually paying your 5% every year. So you're not building up extra money that you're having to pay back through the percentage rate that they're charging you, because the government's actually paying on it. So that's really nice. So when you get done with school, the only thing you're going to owe is that $10,000. But then you're going to start accruing interest for yourself. But during school, at least, if I took out $10,000, that's all I've got to pay back for the time being. Unsubsidized is a little different. No specific financial need is required. So with subsidized, that middle one, only certain folks are going to be eligible for that. It's based off financial needs. So it's who needs it more. Unsubsidized, there's no qualification for that. Anyone is eligible for that. But the interest rate, so that 5% or whatever that is, has to be paid while you're in school. So you take out this loan for $10,000 and you immediately start paying the interest rate. So whatever 5% is, 6%, whatever they're charging you, you're going to have to pay that back during school. So if you're not working and you don't have an income, it's not always the best thing to get an unsubsidized loan, because you have to bring money to the table every single month towards your interest rates. So going back to scholarships.
But can I offer one?
Yep. Yeah.
With the subsidized and unsubsidized loans, that I used to work at Nelnet. So
oh, perfect.
Subsidized loans, you don't earn interest on the $10,000 that you took out while you're in school and 6 months after, which is called your grace period. Unsubsidized loans, the interest accrues while you're in school, and you don't have to pay it, but it accrues while you're in school, like any loan would do. And then you're responsible. Then it adds to the loan the principals that you initially took out. So all student loans that you get from this, direct loans are from the Department of Education, directly borrowed from the Department of Education. It's not a bank, it's a federal government
entity. Yeah.
Right. All loans do not need to be paid back while you're in school, as long as you are going at least full-time. And every school has a different idea of what full-time status is. So at least
so there are definitely loans that you have to pay the interest rate while you're in school.
Right. You don't pay it, but you
No, you have
accrue.
to pay it.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
These direct
Yep.
loans, you don't. You
Okay.
don't have to pay.
Yeah.
But
The direct loans, but there's private unsubsidized that you
yeah,
have to
those are
pay.
horrible.
Yep. Yep. And
Yeah.
these subsidized loans and unsubsidized loans weren't directly about direct loans. They're
Okay.
more just the
Okay.
private. Just
Sorry,
in
my
general.
bad.
No, that's fine. I appreciate you clarifying. So this is another thing as you're looking at loans. I really want to like force this information on you. Research it.
Mhm.
Any type of loan that you're going to take ever,
Yeah.
research it. And we'll talk about towards the end what to research, but there's some things to really consider. I had one of those unsubsidized loans, private loans. I had to pay back interest while I was in school, and I was broke as a joke. I didn't have money to do it, and I don't know how I did it, but I had to do it. But I didn't know that's what I had to do until I got the bill, because I didn't research it. So through all of this, I could give you all this information. Nelnet could give you more information next week. But ultimately, when you're there, when you're making a decision, you need to look at certain things in order to figure out what is best for you and your financial situation. Okay.
Definitely read the fine print.
Yeah, because even what Maura and I are talking about, we're on 2 different pages, but it looks like the same thing.
Right. Exactly.
It looks like the same thing. So had we not dug a little deeper into what we were talking about, we would have, it would have meant the same thing. So
which is a good thing a good conversation, because that's so common, because private loans use the same language, but it doesn't have the same meaning as direct loans.
Yep. Private loans can get a little sneaky.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about scholarships, because like I said in the beginning, there's a lot of scholarship options out there, and this is where your free money is coming from. Sometimes scholarships will pay for your books and your room and board, or just your meal plan or pencils. I mean, there's scholarships out there that will pay for anything, but there's also, the thing is, there's scholarships for anything, especially unique things about you that maybe not everybody has about it, like red hair. That's not everybody has red hair. Same with blonde, brown, whatever color your hair is. But if you can find a unique trait about yourself, whether personality or physical trait, you might find a scholarship for it. It's really fun to kind of look at the silly scholarships they have out there. But look for them, because they'll pay for different things. So maybe you get your books covered one semester, and maybe the next one's your room and board. There's always free money out there. Chase it. It's free. But there's different types of scholarships. So individual would be career focused. There's scholarships out there if you want to be a doctor, nurse, dentist, a teacher, a psychologist, various things. So you could go in there and find scholarships based off your career goals. There's career exchange scholarships, so money given in exchange for work. So here's an example. The National Health Service Corps gives full ride scholarships. They'll pay for everything in exchange for 2 years of service. So when you're done with school or during school, you'll work for them for 2 years, and they will pay your way through college. That's a really great way to get college paid for.
And really, you still earn money.
Right? You're still earning money in the process. If you have a job going into college, or maybe you go to college later on in life and you have a job, a lot of corporations will pay for your schooling. So at UBT, for example, they'll put $5,000 a year towards my education, as long as it falls within something in the bank world. So I can't just go and get an art degree. I have to do something that matches my career, which is in banking. So maybe I go back for business or something like that. But they will pay money towards my college education because I've worked here for over a year. I worked for a company prior to coming to UBT that paid for almost my entire master's program, because they paid a certain amount a year, and I just spread it out. I took a little longer to make sure that they paid for it. So that's how I did it. So I worked for them in exchange for them paying for college, which was super great. There's athletic scholarships. I think we're very familiar with these, especially being close to UNL. If you're really good in the athletic field, there's usually people chasing you down, and they'll pay for full ride scholarships as long as you play that sport for their school. So that's really nice. So all the sports players at UNL are likely on a full ride scholarship. All of them are getting college paid for. So if you're really good in the athletics, look for those. There's also just scholarships out there because you play soccer or volleyball. You don't have to be the best of the best, but look for it. That could be a really good way to get some money. Merit scholarships are awarded to the best in various areas. So academic, volunteer, skills, talent. If you're a big volunteer person, you have a really great skill somewhere, look for merit scholarships. Those will give you free money. If you're like a mathlete or something and you go to competitions, there's likely scholarships out there that will cover your education just because you're the best in one area. And then there's other scholarships. These are the ones I want you to think about: religion, ancestries, heritage, areas of study, adoption, foster care, financial situation, contests, just random things. I've adopted 2 kids, and I know for sure that they could get most, if not all, of their college paid for simply because they were in foster care and they were adopted. So those 2 things. There's a lot of scholarships, and actually, if you go to school in Nebraska, go talk to a financial advisor at the school. If you were in foster care at any point after the age of 13, even if it was for 2 weeks, you could get school basically paid for just by having been in foster care. It's an incredible opportunity. So there's a lot of things that you could get scholarships for simply by just being you, which is pretty neat. So look down deep and figure out what makes you you, and then look up a scholarship for it, because there's probably one there. Doesn't mean that you just say, I have red hair and I get this money. You likely have to write something. They'll give you a prompt. You have to write an essay, win them over, but you could definitely do it. Start now in your high school days. That's the best time to do it. There are some really great websites out there for scholarships. I put them in there. These are the trusted websites. Scholarships.com is one of them. There's a Bill Gates has a scholarship foundation that gives scholarships to certain, I forget exactly what it is. It's not just for anyone, but if you meet their criteria, they give away millions and millions and millions of dollars every year. So there's celebrities that give away money all the time. So just look them up. There's random places. You can't tap out on scholarships. I mean, you could get 100 scholarships. It doesn't matter. Just because you get one doesn't mean you're done. So chase every dollar that you could possibly get. Like I said earlier, they might be worth 100, they might be worth 10,000, but chase what you can get, because you could get a ton, which will help. So I'll definitely send this to you again, Maura, so you can send it out to them.
Okay.
Links, which is handy.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So work study, we've been through this. I'm not going to go over this. Pell Grants. Here we go. Private loans. Okay. Let's talk about private loans a little bit more in depth. So a loan from a financial institution, state loan program, or non-federal institution. This means like a bank or a company that's going to loan out money to you. That's a private loan. All of their loans must be repaid. And you could, a lot of times with private loans, you could borrow more than you need, in a sense. So if school costs $10,000, you could take out 15 to allow for room and board or to help pay your bills while you're studying. That usually doesn't happen with the government loans. It's usually for whatever you need. So there's a little bit more flexibility, because private loans, the private loan institutions get to make their own rules. You can find them at banks, credit unions, state loan programs, Nelnet, Navient, those places. Some universities actually may do loans, so you get a loan directly from the university. I couldn't tell you who does that, but private loans are a little bit different in that they can offer you a little bit more money. The money, when you take a loan, is sent straight to your college, and so it doesn't run through your bank. It's going straight to the college. It's best to apply for federal loans first. Again, this is up to you to decide this, but when it comes to the terms and conditions and the interest rate, federal loans tend to be a little bit better, especially on how you repay them. So if you have the option, it's always better to maybe try for the federal loan versus a private loan. Private loans typically have higher interest rates also. So that's kind of a red flag. If you could pay back less money, you should probably go for that. Don't take a private loan if you don't have to, in a sense, because they're going to charge you more. The repayment plans differ from federal loans. A lot of times you can't put off your repayment meaning there's usually about a 6-month grace period, like Maura said. So when you first get out of college, you don't have to pay back your loan for 6 months. They're going to give you a chance to get a job and get on your feet, start getting a paycheck. Private loans may not have that grace period, or you can't get any more of the grace period, where federal loans, you can put them off a little bit longer if you need to. So again, that repayment plan is really, really a good thing to look out for. You may need a cosigner for eligibility, meaning you may not be eligible for a private loan based off your own credit history, being young, things like that. So you may need a cosigner. And then every provider is different on repayment options. This is the big thing when looking at your loans, when you want to do research, is what is the repayment option with the loan, the type of loan you're getting. Because like I said, they may not let you extend your grace period. They may let you, but only up to a year. Some of them have different repayment options based off like income based. So if you're only making a certain amount, they only make you pay back a certain amount until you make more, and then it goes back up. But it makes it a little bit easier when you first out of college and maybe you don't have the dream job that you want at the moment that's making a ton of money. You could pay less, where private loans may not let you do that. So you really, really want to research what you're going to have to pay back and how quickly you're going to have to pay it back. Federal loans are a little bit different. They're given by the federal government for college. You have to complete the FAFSA, like I talked about, for Pell Grants. They will give you your loan eligibility at that point. So they'll say, yeah, we'll give you this much free money and you're eligible for this much of a loan with these federal loans, which is kind of nice. They may extend a loan repayment terms. So the federal loans are really great about deferring payments, meaning if I can't make my loan payment this month, what they do is they take April's payment and they put it at the end of the loan. So they extend it out another month. So I still have to repay it. It's just going to happen later on. I'm accruing all that interest in the meantime, but it allows me to skip a payment, skip 6 months, whatever I'm eligible to do based off of what they called hardships. So it could be financial hardship, something like that. They just stick it at the end of your loan. So federal loans are a lot more flexible in that, which is really nice right after college. It's not always good to take advantage of those a lot, but sometimes we just need it. Circumstances call for it, and the federal loans allow you to do that. They often do not consider your credit. So if you're going to school, they want to get money so that you could go to school. So credit is often not a consideration, meaning you don't need a cosigner for the loan either. You can often take these by yourself. And the federal loans you could apply at studentaid.gov. That's where you're filling out your FAFSA. And I know that I say that different than a lot of people. FAFSA. Okay, so Parent Plus loan. This is kind of going over those loans again. This is the parents can borrow on their child's behalf. It's a federal loan. It must be repaid. So this is where your parents are taking out a loan or guardian in their name for you to go to school. So the money doesn't go to their bank. It still goes directly to the school to pay for your schooling. A Stafford loan or the direct loans are federal loans. They have to be repaid. The perk of them, the good thing is that they have a fixed rate. So they're only going to charge you a certain annual percentage rate, and that will never change for the life of the loan. So if it's 5% when you took it out, it's going to be 5% when you get it paid off. Direct subsidized loans are slightly better terms, meaning the percentage rates might be less, repayment may be better. School determines how much you can borrow. You could also get loans for part-time school status, which some of the loans make you do full-time, so they won't give you money unless you work full-time, or excuse me, if you're going to school full-time. And then there is a grace period of 6 months after graduation, which is also very, very nice. Direct unsubsidized loans, no financial need requirement. So pretty much anyone is eligible for these for the most part. School determines how much you could borrow based off how, if you're doing full-time or part-time, and other financial needs, which is nice. You must pay interest on the loan during all periods, even while. So this is where you're saying more the direct unsubsidized, you don't have to pay it back.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll change that. The private
You don't
unsubsidized
for
you
the
do.
direct unsubsidized loans or the subsidized or unsubsidized direct loans. You don't have to pay the interest
But you're accruing it.
while you're in school or that grace period, but it earns interest. So
Right. Mhm.
I always say if you're going to take out an upside, you might as well just make a $10 payment on your loan each month because it just goes towards the interest that you're accruing anyway.
Yeah.
It won't hit the principal, but
Yeah.
you don't have to.
Yeah. And when we say principal, that means that original $10,000. That's what's called the principal amount. That's how much the loan was. But then you have a percentage rate that's going to tack it on. So suddenly it's going to be $10,000 and $10,090 and then $10,500. So that goes up because of the interest rate. So
Right.
With unsubsidized direct loans, you can place repayment in deferment or forbearance. So that's when you're putting off your payments or you're putting it at the end of the loan. This is all a part of that repayment thing that you need to look into. What is going to be best for your situation? Especially if you're going to go back into school, you're going to get your bachelor's or you're going to go to trade school and then go directly back into school to do something else. Repayment plans are really, really important to figure out if you're going to have to pay on that loan, if you're back in school, or how quickly do you have to go back to school, or how quickly do you have to get a job, things like that. It's really going to determine those things for you.
I have a silly story.
Go for it.
I just remembered, now I understand what you were saying about the difference between the private subsidized and unsubsidized loans and then the direct ones. My cousin 20 years ago thought she was taking out direct loans because they didn't read the fine print, and they turned out that they were getting private loans. $98,000 after four-year state college because they didn't pay the interest while they were, and they sort of didn't read the fine print. Oh my gosh. It was unbelievable amounts of money to pay back. And the print.
Well, and it's compounded interest too.
Oh, it was.
That's where they get you. And compound interest is really hard to understand, but say your first month you're charged $10 in interest. Then the next month they're taking your original amount plus the $10 and deciding how much you're going to pay.
Right.
And so then that goes back into your pool. And so it's this you're constantly being charged more interest because you have higher balance.
Right.
So it's hard to understand, but it
was hard. Yeah. So there's the difference, and there's the tragedy of not reading the fine print.
Yep, exactly. Which is why I'm very passionate about it, giving this information out, because it is so important, because I'm a victim of school loans.
Me
Bad
too.
school loans.
Yeah.
Okay. So repayment options, like I said, this is probably, I would encourage you to make this like the number one piece of information that you look at. So private loans cannot be forgiven. There's forgiveness programs out there that say if you do a certain amount of work within the field, you could get all of your loans paid off, whatever's left. And private loans do not allow for that. So federal loans do, and there's called public service forgiveness, teacher loan forgiveness, and student loan forgiveness. Public service forgiveness means if you're a public servant, usually in the nonprofit sector, for 10 years straight, and you can prove it, 10 years without a gap, whatever is left of your student loans by that 10-year mark, they just go away within the federal loans. Okay. Now, if Maura has any private loans, those remain. They're not going anywhere. Right. If you're a teacher, I think it's less, it possibly is less time. I'm not sure.
5 years.
It's 5 years. Okay.
5 years.
So if you're a teacher right out of college and you have federal loans, you could get those forgiven, which means you don't have to pay anything. You have to pay for 5 years, but whatever is left, you don't have to pay. And then student loan forgiveness, there's just some extra things out there that you could get your loans forgiven for. I think even with the public service, like doctors are eligible for things like that. But those only are under federal loans. So I was at the 8-year mark in the nonprofit world. So public service would have been great for me, but only half of my student loans are federal loans. So only half of them would have gone away. So it's a little bit different. Like right now with the CARES Act, Federal loans are not being required to pay back, so you don't have to pay them back. But that's only 50% of my loans, so I'm still having to pay on my private loans. So also another one of those things where the government can say, yeah, don't pay them back right now. We're shutting that down. Versus the private loan sector will almost never do that. They're just not going to do it. And then income-based repayment. This is a type of repayment program where they might say, you only make this much, so we're only going to make you pay back this much. And then when you get a raise or get a higher paying job, we'll boost your payment up. So the more money you make, the more you'll have to pay on your student loans, but they keep it lower when you're not making that much money. So right after college, again, one of those payment options might be really good if you're not making a whole lot of money. So that's something to look at too. The only problem is you're usually not paying any more than the interest. So you're only making enough of a payment to pay down your interest, which that principal amount of say $10,000 never goes away. You're only paying on interest. So income-based repayment plans are not always the greatest to do forever, but they are really nice right after college because you're not making that much usually. So it can lower your payment.
But the beauty of an income-based repayment plan is this. You make 120 payments on your student loans, which is 10 years. And the remainder, if you make those 120 payments, the remainder of the loan that's left is forgiven.
Really? On income-based?
Yes. For federal loans. Federal.
Huh. Okay.
So if you say your income-based and your payment is $0, but it's $0 and you have to reapply every year to qualify for income-based. So obviously your income's going to change, but say the most you pay is $100. I'm just saying that. So you make that much, those many payments. The idea is that student loans should be paid back by 120 payment, a 10-year period of time.
That doesn't happen.
Which is ridiculous to say, but and then whatever's forgiven is whatever's left is forgiven, and their hope is nothing's left over. But that is the beauty of the income-based.
Man, I was never eligible for that.
Me either.
It would have been nice, because I've been paying on them longer than 10 years. So. Okay, so there's some really great resources. I put a bunch of the big student loan companies here. Education Quest is a really great foundation to find loans or get information from. Nelnet is here. It's a local company, which is amazing. We've got a wealth of knowledge here in Lincoln when it comes to this type of stuff. So I just put a couple ideas when it comes to private lenders. If you're looking for student loans, shop around. Look at terms, look at repayment plans, look at what they're going to charge you, interest rates, if it's variable, if it's fixed rate, because you want the fixed is going to be really important. So there's some really great resources here for you to dive into. So it's a lot of information. What questions do we have? Anybody? No? Well, definitely, if you have questions for next week, it's a good time to ask. If you're looking at like a scenario for you to go to college, what should you do? We could talk through those. I'm going to leave a good chunk of time for question and answers. So please come to the table with some questions about student loans or scholarships or grants, anything like that. Maybe your thoughts on, going to university versus SCC when it comes to money, if you have questions about that. Because if I don't have an answer for you and the Nelnet representative doesn't, I'll find you an answer. I'll get you an answer. I'll get your contact and we'll get that taken care of for you. So financial advisors at different universities and colleges, you should talk to them before you apply for anything, because they're also going to know, they're going to be able to look at your situation, figure out what's really best for you, encourage you one way or the other. So it's always a good thing to ask questions. The big takeaway from this, do research, ask questions. Don't just dive into any sort of loan program just because it sounds good doesn't mean it is good. So we want to ask questions. We want to get educated before doing this. Somebody did ask me a question. Would the scholarships or grants you're eligible for change if you take a gap year? That's a really great question. So if you take a gap year, sometimes your loans are going to kick back in if it's longer than 6 months. So you have to be careful if you're taking loans out. Scholarships and grants, you probably wouldn't be earning any grant during that year, so it wouldn't really matter. I took a gap year to get married, and I just didn't have anything coming in at that point. But I did have to pay back loans that were eligible for it. Scholarships, they just send the money to the school. So some people take gap years, but they have scholarship money banked at their school, and they can use it when they come back because it's for a particular reason that it's there. So you can't just cash it out. So gap years, you may want to do some questioning with your advisor at the school when you're in school to say, hey, how's this going to affect my scholarships, my grants, my loans, things like that. They'll help you figure it out. Hope that
A lot
helps.
of times though, like with gap years, I have a couple of colleagues whose freshmen are taking gap years. They're just starting
yeah.
school a year later,
I did
right?
that too.
And they're working for a company. They got internships, and that company is going to pay for their 4 years of college. So that's why they're doing the
Super
gap
smart.
year. So there's a lot of benefits to it, but you can apply for federal money, but if you're doing a gap year, then you're going to have to reapply anyway for the federal money. But the scholarships, that's going to depend on the school. The school may say you have to start and be a traditional student to be eligible, but that's really up to the scholarship and the school.
Right. And they might say it has to be used within a year.
Right.
So what are the dates that you're looking at? When does your year end? So it may just work with your gap year. It may not. So definitely ask those questions.
Yeah.
That's smart of those people to get a job during their.
Oh, it was brilliant. Yeah. They did internships that then paid for them to go to school.
Yeah. Well, there's companies like UBT, Walmart. There's a lot of companies out there that you work for them for a year and they'll basically pay for your schooling.
Yeah. I got my whole entire undergrad and grad school paid for by LES.
Smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really great idea. There's no rush to go to college.
No.
Especially if you don't know what you're doing. Just take a break. Go work somewhere. Dabble in some companies that you may want to work for. Go work for Nelnet. Basically go to school for free.
There you go. All right, ladies.
All right,
anything
that's
else?
all I've got.
Okay. Well, thank you, Caitlin.
Yeah, thank you.